Hi, welcome back to Built to Last. Today, we're checking out the City of Toledo's Bayview and Eastside pump stations. The City of Toledo's Bayview pump station and Eastside pump station date from the city's entry into modern wastewater treatment. Toledo's sewer system came about through the same narrative that played out in most major cities, starting with London in the 1860s. Direct drain sewage pollutes river, and the public demands sewage improvements to prevent diseases and epidemics. Here in Toledo, the surface water was fouled by street sewers discharging directly into Swan Creek and the Maumee River. These sewers dumped whatever filth accumulated in the sewers. I'm sure the river was an atrocious brew of sewage, manure, industrial waste, and street runoff. Lovely, I'm sure. The first step was always intercepting sewers to capture sewage before it hit the river. To drain the sewers, a lift station was needed. For Toledo, that first station was Bayview Pump Station. Bayview Pump Station was designed in 1920 by the legendary water engineer George Fuller. And let's face it, Fuller was the real deal. From what I understand, Fuller worked for something like 150 communities in its career. There's even a water industry award bearing Fuller's name today. Crazy. 100 years later, and we still remember the sky's impacts. Bayview was state-of-the-art in the 20s. Construction of Bayview Pump Station was completed in 1922, and immediately Bayview Pump Station began discharging wastewater directly into the Maumee River. Like I said, directly. Back then, the theory really was that the solution to pollution was dilution. Well, as soon as Bayview Pump Station came online, authorities quickly realized that direct discharging untreated wastewater was not going to work. Some sort of treatment process would be needed. Fuller and his partner McClintock made the first attempt at treatment, a detritus-type settling tank. And the detritus was found ineffective right away. I think it's important to point out that engineering in the early days was all kinds of trial and error, and these designers were learning so much from each project. I feel like the expectation of trial and error efforts caused engineers to work in a way that gave them options. We see some of that in these early Toledo pump stations. In the mid-1920s, Fuller and McClintock engineer H.P. Jones split off and started his own competing design business and started working in Toledo. In 1929, H.P. Jones designed the improved Toledo Treatment Works, consisting of a much larger settling basin, what we call primary treatment in today's industry. When the treatment works were constructed, the Bayview Pump Station was modified to discharge into the plant's headworks instead of the Maumee River. As the Bayview Pump Station was capturing flows on the north and west side of the Maumee River, it became apparent that another pump station would be needed as well for the east side of the river communities. So H.P. Jones and his company were hired to design a pump station and a siphon crossing under the Maumee River. The siphon was a 1,600-foot, 6-foot diameter, brick-lined tunnel, and I was actually told the horses were left in the tunnel. I don't really believe that story, but it's an interesting story nonetheless. H.P. Jones duplicated the design of the Bayview Station with the Eastside Station that came online in 1927. Okay, so what is it about Bayview and Eastside Pump Station that made them built to last? This is the question I asked myself as I toured these buildings. First, the pump stations are sited in nearly perfect spots for the operation intended back then and today. I'll also add that the functionality is extremely simple. Lift the water to a head box downstream and then just let gravity do the work. Simple functionality is a real key here. Because of the simplicity, the original concept survives today, even as the city plans major improvements to both stations. From a building perspective, the use of locally sourced brick material is key, because local materials are more likely to be able to withstand local weather and temperature extremes better than something that's imported. Think about it. Then we have the interior treatments. Huge windows bring in a ton of natural light, and let's face it, the human eye works best in natural light. Bayview and Eastside Pump Station designers didn't really have the choice to use a ton of light bulbs like we do today. But this is something that we can still learn from their lessons. Natural light really is best. Another building feature that I thought was interesting is the clay Spanish tile roof and the copper downspouts. These must have been selected for longevity because they're still functional today and they look great. And last of all, and not to be overlooked, is the thoughtful design work of the original engineers, Fuller and Jones, to make the buildings large enough for future expansions to occur within the footprint of the building. Yes, there's been some expansions, outside the footprint, but in general, most of the work has happened inside. And this is something that's awesome to consider, and not one that I think engineers often appreciate or push hard enough for today. Space for the future is truly pivotal because without room to grow, the solution can quickly be outgrown. I'm inspired to see how much space was provided in the original design to give new designers for today and tomorrow something to work with. So to wrap things up, I'm not going to lie, this one is personal for me. Bayview and Eastside pump stations represent something special to me because the founder of the company that I own, Jones and Henry Engineers, was H.P. Jones. H.P. worked on both of these projects, Eastside and Bayview, and was the design engineer of record at Eastside. As I visit these pump stations, I can sense the presence of my predecessor. I look over his plans and I see the care and thought that he put into these projects. I hear him telling me about the keys to the design. As I look and listen, HP tells me that exploring what makes buildings last is a worthy goal. I almost sense Jones and Fuller nudging me to notice the concepts that I highlighted here. Durable materials, space to grow, and most importantly, simplicity. I think after visiting the work of my predecessors at Bayview and Eastside pump stations, I can truly say that these facilities are in fact built to last.